Good morning, SIN fans. It's Mark Oldop Skyhopper here on the Sports Insanity Network, brought to you by the Dugout of Millwood. Before we get into the great sport news, we had some great news here at the network. Our Vice President, Danny Boy Reginald, was promoted and started a new job and we're going to let him tell us quickly. Dan, where are you now working?
Well, no, still at the same station, still Channel
Sorry, it
7
was
and
just a
GC. Just a promotion. I am now a newscast director. So what does that entail? Well, I direct a studio crew full of camera people and graphics operators and audio people, and I direct them through a newscast. And um, it's something that I've thought about for a long time, being a director of the news. Um, it's not something that I planned when I first got into the broadcasting business, but something that for a while I've been very curious about, and I'm just really excited that I got this opportunity. Now, what does this mean for me in the network here? Well, not much. I'm still going to be here. But this is a big life change. This is me taking on a lot of responsibilities. I'm basically the captain of the ship in the control room. So it's a big deal. It's a really big deal, and I have to um, focus all my efforts on that. So if I am on any of these podcasts and I'm a little off, you know why.
but it was great news, and I felt like that needed to be shared before we got
Yeah,
into baseball,
yeah.
as it is a major life accomplishment for you, Dan.
Yeah, and I want to thank Rifkin and Olapsky for uh really supporting me through this. I know again this is a big responsibility that I'm taking on. And of course that involved me either missing time or not doing as much content or doing content but doing but less time. Whatever the case is, I thank them for being understanding and supporting me through this. And I got to my goal and now I'm ready to go.
That's
You up the
great.
lonely island like a boss.
And, all the best to Dan in his new head of the ship job. And we all know what happens to the captain of the ship when it starts to sink. So, Dan, do us a favor. Do not follow that rule. Get out first. That being
Oh my,
said,
that would make Dan Captain Hook for Peter
that
Pan. And
be
which would make Patchy Smitty.
that being said, we have some interesting baseball news that happened late last night. We had some interesting extra things to add to the rundown, but we're going to give it to the guy who keeps us in control and gets these stories together and keeps us organized. Mike, the pun master Rifkin, show's yours.
All right. Well, I guess that would make you Peter Pan in the movie Peter Pan because you don't want to grow up. But
No, I'm a big kid. You got it.
all right.
That makes my wife Wendy. Awesome.
All right, folks, I'm sorry about the movie talk. For reference, that's just other stuff that we do on the side. All right, as Mark mentioned, we do have baseball news. Welcome into the Batter Up podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood here on the Sports Insanity Network. And we will dive right in because, as Mark mentioned, we had a trade. The first real major trade of the season occurred late Friday night into yesterday. The Miami Marlins sent former batting champion Luis Ariz to the San Diego Padres for this group of players, and I don't know if there's been a better group of players in one trade. Dylan Head, Woo Suck Go, and Nathan Matorella all go back to the Marlins in exchange for Luis Ariz. Should be mentioned, none of these guys are top prospects. And on top of this, the Miami Marlins are paying the salary of Luis Ariz this season.
It's unreal. The Padres are on the hook now for the league minimum for Luis Arias, and he showed up big time yesterday, collecting 4 hits in his Padres debut. This is something we've come to see the Marlins do. This is a Marlins thing. They have players who come up, they trade them from draft picks. The problem is that this is a Marlins typical thing, and sometimes it pays off as Marlins teams have gone to the World Series a lot more than their teams that have not shown up there. This is one of the first big moves by the Marlins new head of operations. I think it was kind of a poor move, to be honest. And for the San Diego Padres, you got to be like, thank you, Dan.
Yeah, like Jesus, like thank you, like holy crap. That was not expected. I mean, it's good for San Diego. They get a player and they get him on the cheap. Simple as that. I think that the part about paying the majority of Arias's contract to me is a little ridiculous. It's not something that the Marlins should be doing. I get that, with trades like these, sometimes you may have to take on bulk of the contract, but for San Diego to basically be paying pennies on the dollar is just simply insane. And it's, it, while it doesn't necessarily mess with you money wise, it still puts your team in a financial hole. That's still another player that you have to worry about on your payroll this season. So it just simply just does not make any sense, and it's going to carry on for a while. So I for one didn't really understand it, and again, if you're San Diego, you're reaping the benefits, and you better be good because you're paying nothing essentially.
I think San Diego's gonna be fine. The Marlins, to me, like I'm gonna try to keep this as clean and professional as I can, because the Miami Marlins, you gentlemen, are pathetic. And I'm not talking about the players. I am not insulting the players. As an organization, you are pathetic. How you handled the Kim Ng situation over the winter, how you were a playoff team last year, and then bit a bullet and just said, we're not going to do anything over the winter. We think we're perfect, and not improve our roster. And I get it. Sandy Alcantara's not pitching this year. Yuri Perez probably isn't pitching this year. You have injuries. Every team has injuries through a baseball season. You're not special. And on top of this, I believe Luis Arias, he's a free agent after next year, not after this year.
Yeah, they got him for another year. Yeah.
So the Padres get him for another year, and you're paying the bulk of the salary, and you didn't get a top prospect in return. What are we doing? And I don't want to hear that Pete Bendrix comes from Tampa Bay and he's going to install the Tampa Bay system. Nobody can do what the Rays do outside of the Rays. Nobody. I don't care if they come from the same organization. I don't care if they founded the Rays way. You can't recreate what the Rays do.
No, you can't. You're 100% right. If you look at it from the standpoint from the Padres, they were missing a left-hand at bat with Soto traded to the Yankees. So this at least replaces that effect, and it's going to pay off, as Arias is one of the most constant hitters in baseball.
I'm interested in seeing what the Padres do next, because they still have Bogarts, they have Ha-Seong Kim, they got Cronenworth.
That's the name.
They've
right
got a
there.
lot of guys who can play
Yeah.
those up the middle positions. That unless Manny Machado is going to become the full-time DH, but he could still play elite defense. But man, I I like what San Diego do. I just don't get it from a Marlins perspective. And we've seen the Marlins do this in the past, where they trade guys in their prime and when they're having great careers. Miguel Cabrera, uh, Josh Beckett. You know, the list goes on and on of great Marlin players who get moved for essentially reasons of we don't want to pay you.
Well, specifically with this operations guy, the baseball operations person, it doesn't. The deal is just a slap in the face to the organization that is trying to at least reinvent themselves as one of the big time powerhouses in baseball. You have to understand 20 years ago they were world champions, and now they're almost an afterthought, this Marlins team.
They've been to the playoffs 3 times in team history. They've won the World Series twice.
Yeah.
And without those 2 World Series runs, let's be brutally honest, the Marlins are a failure.
Yeah.
Without those 2 World Series runs.
I don't even know if they're still here in baseball. Yeah. They'll probably be in like a Nashville.
You're right. They'd be in Nashville. By the way, you could still move them because nobody goes to the damn games.
And right. and it's a terrible ballpark too.
Right.
I had made a statement. Home run statue.
Take both franchises, combine them, and send them to Montreal.
Think of this too. This was an organization at one time that had an outfield of Mike Stanton, now Giancarlo Stanton, Christian Yelich, and Marcelo Ozuna. They got rid of all of them because they didn't want to pay them.
Because they, like Fisher, they're cheap. And mind you, at one point they had Derek Jeter.
By the way,
no offense, Stan.
And the Yankees did Derek Jeter a solid when they took the Stanton contract by not giving them anything.
Right.
Like, this is where we talk a lot about the Steve Cohen rules when with him spending the money he does. There's another side to owners who don't want to spend money. And those are the people who are wrong for the game, because the people who are losing that ain't the owner. It's not the team on the field. It's your fans who pay the salaries of the players. That's who loses when you want to be cheap. As Mark tried to be invisible there for a second. But that would be the frustration. If I am a Marlins fan, I don't know why I want to believe in this franchise. And you know what, Marlins fans? At least you got the Panthers advancing into the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
There you go.
All right. Let me settle down. There might be a blog about this coming too, Marlins. I'm watching you.
You want to read good blogs, go to www.thesportsandsanitynetwork.com. Lots of great blogs from everything from baseball to anything we can put out.
Sumo wrestling.
Mike, you got that one next since you're part of the face turn.
Damn right. All right. Mark, next topic actually came from an idea you had.
Wow.
I know. It shocked me as well as you. You sent me a thing on the Facebook Messenger about players and teams we believe who need to bounce back in May, because you gave the example of a certain third baseman. So I'm going to give you the run on this one.
You're going to put me on the spot. When we look at all the players who've had, up and down years and need bounce back seasons. I've been looking at it, and I'm gonna kill Mike because he's gonna put me on the spot and forget the player I mentioned. So I'm trying to stall here as I look for the one friggin' line where I sent it. Mike, who did I say, please? So I don't screw up and sound like a schmuck. Really, I'm serious.
I just sent it to you.
Thank you. I didn't see it down below. I was giving you credit to send it to me out in the thing. I was looking in my chat.
I
Now,
was.
I actually had two, but no. Matt Chapman has been one of the more disappointing um, players over the last couple of years and has needed a resurgence and not batting horribly, not batting well, but he's still not worth the money he's being paid. There are a number of players out there, and Mike's going to probably look surprised when I mention this, along with players who need to perform and who are not. Freddie Freeman, I'm sorry. He's hitting. He's got a 288 batting average, but they got him for his power, and it's been so lacking in the first month. He has 2 home runs, and both home runs barely cleared the wall. They weren't monster home runs. So the question is Freddie Freeman, hurting? Those are two of the players who I said to Mike that I expected a turnaround. And then I'm going to put one from our team who is just, if he wants the contract, he's batting 216 right now. Pete Alonso might have 7 home runs, RBI hits, and doubles in those games, but he's batting 216.
Can I counter that with something off of what you just said?
Go for it.
I think the more JD Martinez plays, he gets into the flow. I think that's going to help Pete Alonso.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you, but as we're calling this topic players that need to, being stepping up, you know, every team has somebody that's kind of surprising that's, being held back and whatnot. And I've mentioned, Mets players. Dan, what about you? Who do you think who's off to a off start who really needs to start picking it up?
Aaron Judge?
Wait. You mean the guy who got thrown out yesterday?
Yeah. Aaron Judge. Plain and simple.
And speaking of what Mike said, Aaron Judge, captain of the New York Yankees, was tossed out of his first game ever. And I'll let Dan get to the note.
It was a bad strike call. That
Yeah.
bottom line.
We'll let Dan get to the big note about it. It was a horrible strike call, and we'll wait for a John Boy reaction because they're the ones who will be able to really clearly get it. We didn't
John
get it.
Boy
Like,
did react. He didn't do like a whole YouTube video of it, but
take it from here, Dan. Go ahead.
yeah,
Shout
but
out
he did.
John Boy.
But he did do like a Twitter and Instagram post on it, where he did do a lip read and everything. It was a bad call. But yeah, Aaron Judge got ejected. He's a sweet guy. He looks like a really nice guy. He doesn't look like a guy that like Lou Piniella would go after these umpires and really be in their face and everything. Like, he doesn't strike me as like that. But hey, look, sometimes you say things after you get struck out, and and then the umpire doesn't like it. I thought it was a cheap move by the umpire. The umpire he allowed Aaron Judge to walk away. He turned away and then threw him out. I thought that was a soft, cheap, silly move, and very weak. And you had no balls to look at Aaron Judge and throw him out. You had to wait till he turns around. I thought that was pretty silly. But yeah, no, terrible strike call, and I think everyone knows it too. But Aaron Judge, for the first time in his career, gets ejected. And get this, Olaps guy and Rivkin. This is the first Yankee captain since Don Mattingly to get ejected. I believe it was like 30 years ago. I don't remember a time where Derek Jeter ever got ejected.
Not that I can ever recall, no.
Yeah, and if he did, it had to have been before he was captain because I watched all Derek Jeter games. Never seen him get ejected ever.
There's a lot of things happening that haven't happened in 30 years in New York sports, and it's kind of getting me nervous about the biggest thing going on. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it
No.
because you got to have positive vibes.
Yes, but before we go on, Mike, I'm going to throw my hot mic out since Dan said a name that's involved in it, and Derek Jeter. Mike and Dan, this is a little battle between the two of you. At the top prime of their careers, who would you rather have on your team, Derek Jeter or David Wright? We will give it
In
to
the
Mike
prime of
first.
their
In
career?
their prime of their careers, not at the
Jeter.
beginning, not at the end. No, we're going to give it to Mike first,
Oh,
then we will give it to Dan.
man, that's hard. Because there is not a single non-New York Met baseball player I have more respect for than Derek Jeter. But the prime of the career, you know what?
That's a hard question.
It's a very hard question. Because if you're looking at David Wright's prime, it was really only about 3.5 years. It was 05 to about 09, and then the injury bug kind of hurt him. And Citi Field being what it used to be. Winning matters to me. So in prime, I'm going Derek Jeter. There is a reason why Derek Jeter got the nickname Mr. November. There is a reason why Derek Jeter, in my opinion, and I can only speak to this for my lifetime, Derek Jeter has an argument to be considered the greatest New York Yankee of all time. So I'm going to go Derek Jeter.
Okay, now we're going to kick it over to Danny Boy Reginald.
Thing is, I love David Wright when he played. I love watching him. No, I had to go Jeter. I can't. It's not even my bias, dude. Like, Jeter. He won. I mean, he didn't win a championship every year in his prime. As a matter of fact, a lot of his championships came in the beginning of his career. Then in the prime, I think he only had like one in his prime, which was 09. Man, Derek Jeter, to me, demanded winning, demanded excellence, and played it every single night, even when the Yankees were terrible. He played well every night. He always got the big hit. He always got the runs in. He was a big time run producer. Heck, the dude, I think he still batted over 300, right, in his career. So it's like
He was at least close, and he made two of the or three of the greatest defensive plays you'll ever see.
310.
Yeah.
He batted 310. No, it has to be Jeter. I can't. And he was an all-star too.
I'm not giving credit the All-Star game because I hate the popularity contest that it's become.
But at the time it wasn't as what it is
Absolutely.
now. Yeah.
But listen, he also made three of the greatest defensive plays you'll ever see. The flip in the 0-2 playoffs against the A's, Sada.
Yes.
I think it was 0-4, the catch he made against the Red Sox. They went into the stands.
Yeah.
And then he made the patented Jeter backhand flip jump throw. Nobody does that better than Derek Jeter.
Yeah. And Silver Slugger awards all around for at least 4 years straight.
And
no one did better than Derek Jeter during his prime.
And here's the one other thing. The New York Yankees, Mark's going to hate this comparison. The New York Yankees are what the Dallas Cowboys want to be. The New York Yankees are the true definition of America's team
Oh,
because they are well
fudge
known.
you.
They are. I can't help myself.
I didn't curse though.
And Derek Jeter was the face of the franchise, and he did it with dignity. He did it with respect, and he went all DJ Khaled with all he does is win, 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 no matter what.
And I'm not gonna, this was posted in a Mets fan group that I'm part of, and it really drew a great debate between almost, I would want to say 65% of the members in there joined in, and there were Mets fans giving it to like Mike gave it to Derek Jeter. I had a little bit of bias, but even I said it's a 51-49 split, Derek Jeter, David Wright to Derek Jeter, because I have a little bias. I'm not going to say it's not, but I agree with Mike. The face of the franchise, he was the face of baseball because of how clean he was. He did it, like Mike said, with class, but there is only one thing Mike said I'm going to argue with, and then we move on. The classic patented Derek Jeter shortstop throw, Troy Tulowitzki did it better.
Troy Tulowitzki couldn't stay healthy.
That's his problem. But I have seen that man do it at Citi Field, and he did it against Jose Reyes, and that was unbelievable.
And one last thing, and then we can move off of.
Yeah, sorry.
I think this is a really important feature because we could talk about what's important. It doesn't matter the statistics because what matters is winning. And unfortunately for David Wright, he is the face of a New York Mets team that collapsed in 2007 and 2008, and then entered the Isle of Irrelevancy from 2009 to 2013, 14. And then they went on a magical run in 15. And then, unfortunately, after that, it was okay. Everything David gives you is a bonus, but the team wasn't good enough. So that hurts him too. So shout out Derek Jeter if you're listening.
We know you
an
are.
Open invite on the podcast, Derek Jeter.
Yeah.
And if he does, we promise to keep Bill Murphy nice and calm.
Oh, he's not coming on. He's not allowed. That will be our taunt to him. We interviewed Derek Jeter, and you're not allowed.
Invited. We don't invite Bill and Dan, the only two Yankee fans that are there. We bring you, me, and Tom, Met fans, to come interview Derek Jeter. How dare you hit a home run in game one over the left field wall?
Oh boy! All right.
Yeah. No. Moving on.
So to answer Mark's question about guys who need a little bit more from Matt Olson in Atlanta, hitting a $195 with 3 homers. Need a little bit more. Bo Bichette in Toronto, who had the quote of the year yesterday when he was talking about how he hasn't produced, and they're going to activate Alek Manoah off the injured list to start today against the Nats, because they could send me down and I deserve it. I've never heard a ball player say that, but so those would be 2 guys I would look at. All right, who need a little bit more need a little bit more from. All right, I covered this Wednesday, but I want to have a conversation with you guys on this. Mike Trout out again, torn meniscus. There are no more words, Dan, because this guy was off to a really good start, league leading 10 homers, but he just can't stay on the field anymore.
Yeah, no, it sucks because he's actually playing. He was healthy and playing well, which is what we expected. When he's healthy, he plays terrific. But then, of course, he gets hurt now. He hurts his knee, and he's going to be out for a while. Man, we really need to put him in a bubble. like a really, really big bubble if you're the Anaheim Angels. And, you know, protect him at all costs because now he's going to be out for a while. I mean, look, the way the Angels, it's not going to really change much for the Angels anyway, but it just stinks because he is that it guy. Like he is it. He is him. And he's not going to be around. It blows. Blows massively for the Angels.
Mark.
What can I say? What Dan hasn't already said. Mike Trout, I had picked when we did our baseball prediction shows. I said, there's your MVP this year. And he came out with the fire that I thought he was going to. And as Mike said, he had 10 home runs. He started playing well. And then when I saw the news, I sent it to Mike. Here we go again. And Mike said, "Oh, yeah, don't worry. We'll be talking that this weekend." Um, and it comes a point where they said that this is not a season ending injury. He'll be back.
No.
But at what cost anymore? The
But
Angels.
hot start, Mark. I mean, and now when he comes back, I don't know what he's gonna look like.
Exactly. He's gonna be. You have to figure they're saying 8 to 10 weeks right now, and that could, medical things have changed in the way they do things. It could be shortened, and he could get started, but he's still going to have to go through a spring training type restart. So then you're going to add on weeks anyway. Then he's going to need a couple of rehab starts. Congratulations, low tier levels of the Angel minors team. You're going to see Mike Trout probably play one or two at bats. But once he comes back, don't know if he's going to be able to regain or recapture what other players who are going to be in the MVP race at that point could actually be doing.
All right, let me pose this question because it's something, Mark, you and I have had conversations about. Is it time for Mike Trout to say, you know what? I can't stay healthy. This team isn't going anywhere. So I know from an Angel fan perspective, they're going to say, we're trading for pennies on the dollar. But is it time for a separation here? Because this is a guy who can't stay healthy, and this is a team where the worst place to be in any sport is in the middle. And the Los Angeles Angels, they're in the middle, but they're on the bad side of the middle.
When you look at Mike Trout and what he has accomplished and what he's done and what more he still has to offer baseball, it's for the Angels to look at. You've got 50 million going on Trout, 24 plus million on Rendon. That's $78 million not doing anything. You could ask Mike Trout if he's willing come trade deadline to waive his no trade clause, but I'm sure he's only going to hand pick a select number of teams because he's not going to go to someone like the Marlins. He's not going to go
He's only
anywhere.
going to go to a team who he can win with.
Exactly. He'll end up somewhere. Who knows where it would be? But yes, it's time to give Mike Trout his due to go and get a ring, another notch on the belt, and let him do it with another organization that's going to give him the shot, whether it's playing outfield or it's actually just becoming a permanent DH. Dan?
Separation for Trout and the Angels. I mean, it's not a terrible idea. Not necessarily because of uh Trout's injury and stuff. It's just time to restart. This Angels team really hasn't picked up anything. They tried it with Shohei Ohtani and then it didn't happen. Like they didn't go anywhere. Mike Trout still waiting on playoffs. for him to go off. That ain't happening. And just overall, the bad contract at the bad contract at the bad contract from this Angels team, going back to even the Pujols and Josh Hamilton days. It's a track record for the Angels. I just think they need a new direction in the franchise. They really do. And it's time. I think this is like the starting point. But I hate lumping Trout into this because I feel like it's not necessarily his fault. And I know he really wants to be there because he would have asked for a trade a long time ago if he didn't want it.
Loyalty is a great thing, a great trait. But I think in times of sports, there needs to at least be some thought of, hey, Mike Trout was the best player in the game for a long time. The Los Angeles Angels rewarded him by making the playoffs one time. And Dan, you're right. The Josh Hamilton contract stunk. The C.J. Wilson contract stunk. The Albert Pujols contract was signed, and this has been openly admitted. They wanted the milestone home runs to be hit in an Angels uniform.
Correct.
And as much as everyone loves Mike Trout, he was the face of baseball. That's deteriorated because of two reasons. One, injuries. And two, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim have become irrelevant. Nobody cares what the Angels do. You want to sign Anthony Rendon for $240 million? Well, guess what? Anthony Rendon, he can't stay healthy either.
He also plays like he doesn't care.
Right. And by the way, he's making more news off the field than he does on the field.
Yeah.
Starting pitching, we've talked about that ad nauseum for the Angels. They don't have enough starting pitching. Well, let's not spend money on it because we're going to go after big fish like Garrett Cole and lose when the Yankees outbid us. Well, it doesn't take one guy to make a rotation. It takes five. Artie Moreno, you may have a tremendous mustache, and Disney World might be or Disneyland, I don't know what the California one's called. It might be the happiest place on earth. But the Angels haven't been relevant since 2002 or since the making of Angels in the Outfield. I haven't decided which.
It's a shame, too, because when Ohtani, very quickly because we have a lot to cover. When Ohtani came, I didn't think it would happen in the first year, but in the second or third year, I thought it was possible we were going to start seeing that dynasty in Los Angeles that never came to fruition. So,
yeah. All right. One more thing, and then we're going to go into the series to look at for the week. And Mark, again, you brought this to my attention because this happened during the Cubs and Mets series with the helmet on the base.
oh.
So do you want to walk us through what happened?
Okay. All right. So, Pico Armstrong, was a
That
Met
legend.
before they traded him for Javi Baez and whatnot. And let me tell you, it was sore to see him go because I didn't know what this kid was going to be able to do. That being said, moving on, he hit a ball, nice shot for a double, but came around the base too hard at second, and the only thing that was touching the bag when he was tagged was his hand to his helmet, which the helmet was touching the base. And we're going to credit Dan because Dan sent this out to the two of us immediately, as soon as he was able to send it and said, is this right? Now, I actually had to go and look at the rule book personally because didn't want to sound like a know-it-all. and I was a catcher for 22 years. The helmet is not a body part. The last time I have ever checked, according to anatomy and physiology, according to the rule book, it must be an extension of a limb or a body part touching the bag. It cannot be a jersey, it cannot be a glove, nor in this case can it be a helmet. The call should have been reviewed immediately, and he should have been called out. This was one of the biggest umpiring bloopers we're going to see for a long time. This actually took Angel Hernandez out of the news for a week.
He still called a bad strike somewhere.
I'm sure he did. Dan.
I mean, I was surprised that that wasn't reviewed. You know, I mean, isn't any advancement to the base a reviewable call? I mean, you know,
Yes.
so I'm shocked that the Mets didn't review this because first of all, upon review, I think Steve Gelbs made it very clear on his report on SNY that if it was reviewed, he would have been out. So I don't know what the Mets were thinking or anything that I think it ultimately didn't matter. But like, you know,
Right.
still like you have to protect the rules of the game here. You know, I've never seen a helmet be an extension of a body part ever. Never. As far as I'm concerned, helmets were not part of your body unless it's on it.
Right.
Unless you
If that
glue it
was the
onto your
case,
head.
You
if
know?
that was the case, if helmets were allowed to be used, players would just run with the bats so they
Oh
can
yeah,
slide and
exactly.
tag the
Well,
base.
right.
Old school like Bartolo Colon
Hey,
used.
take off. You want to take off your cleats? Take off your cleats.
Yeah.
Put that foot, quote unquote, on the back.
Right.
Take off your batting glove. Batting glove counts.
Or the oven mitt. I love the oven mitt. Now I have to do. I have to do say, the oven mitt is not allowed to be used as a deflecting device, but that's another story for another time.
Yeah, I'm glad the rules were clarified by Major League Baseball, and that this is not a controversial thing. But it just goes to show you, man, that these umpires are just terrible at their jobs. Like, how do you not know the rules of baseball and you're umpiring a game? I don't want to hear you. I wasn't sure. You have a rule book. Read it.
Right.
And here's the other thing, because you guys brought up review. And I've learned something. I think this was the Monday night game between the Mets and the Cubs, the play at the plate with Pete Alonso. I've learned that the replay system in Major League Baseball is very flawed because of this reason. I don't think umpires in New York City want to overturn their peers unless it is blatantly obvious.
So you're suspecting a inside conspiracy job.
I'm not saying it's an inside conspiracy. What I'm saying is, it's kind of a conspiracy. You're right. What I'm saying is, I feel the same way about the NFL officials at times too. They're not going to overturn this call because they don't want to pass off so and so. The only guy who ever gets his calls overturned is Angel Hernandez, and that's because he's guessing 95% of the time.
No, that rule, that play is going to be now very, very strictly enforced because I understand the reason why they changed the rule after what happened to Buster Posey. Trust me, I do. I was a catcher.
Andy Alderson came up with the rule.
Right. And it was, it was a brilliant rule. It protected catchers. However, if you want to make that the rule, they can't have their foot or any type of item blocking the bag without allowing them to be plowed over. I'm sorry. In that case, Pete Alonso should have been allowed to hit him since he was covering the bag. But no, Pete Alonso slid like he was supposed to, but could not get his hand to the bag because the catcher's foot, which is on the plate, which is also in the rule book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So what we're basically saying is umpires read the rule book.
yeah.
Know
You
the
know,
rules.
you hearing about the catching and the blocking of the plate kind of reminds me when Goose Gossage went off on Buzzer Posey.
Oh,
One time saying he couldn't
Shout
block the
out
plate.
Buster Posey. Tremendous career.
I loved him. Borderline
great
Hall of Famer.
catcher.
Borderline
Oh,
Hall of Famer.
Oh,
absolutely.
absolutely.
He'll get in. He'll get in.
Yeah, I don't know which ballot, but he'll get in. Yeah. In any case, the umpires got to be better. But the bottom line is the umpires have to be better.
Yeah, or we're gonna replace them with robots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
All right. All right, let's get into some of the big series for the week. We got big one in the AL Central, Mark. The Tigers go to Cleveland to play the first place Guardians.
Well, the Detroit Tigers, as we said at the beginning of the season, were going to be a wild card type team and not necessarily make the wild card, but a team that has the capabilities to put up runs and really, I mean, not as electric as the Cincinnati Reds, but has a young crew with Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson. I know Casey Mize has started off a little bit weaker, and I expected him to have a better start to the season. I mean, he's gotten lit up his last couple of times. Flipping it over to the Cleveland Guardians, I mean, they're not playing bad ball. I mean, Jose Ramirez, Andre Jimenez, Bo Nail are all playing at high levels, and this is gonna be a fun series to watch as you're looking at two teams that one it could be pretty much vying for the top of their division, while the other one is chasing for the wild card come the trade deadline, and both teams can use advantages. The question is what are they going to be able to give up, as both teams have spent a lot in their farm system recently to become what they have.
I think
Yeah.
for the Tigers, there's really. I'm not saying that there's expectation because there isn't.
Mhm.
So, they're going to play their hearts out. They're going to play out of their minds all season. They've done a pretty good job so far. This is a more competitive division than I thought it would be, if I'm being real with you. You know,
Outside of the White Sox.
outside the White Sox, every team is above 500, at least what, 3 games over. So I really give them a lot of credit. Um, the Guardians, though, let's be honest, they also face the A's and the Red Sox and
Say what you
the
want about these. They're
Angels.
500. And they put up a
Still,
20 spot yesterday on
but
the Marlins.
yeah, but that's the Marlins thing too.
Yeah,
I
I know.
mean, fine, whatever. But like, look, I'm just saying, like, I, I'm curious to see how this series will go. You have the Tigers who are hungry, but they're young and they don't know any better. The Guardians, on the other hand, they've been around the block. Maybe not the entire team, but they've been around the block and they're playing well. So I give the series to the Cleveland Guardians. But the Tigers, they're gonna be competitive. I really believe in this Detroit team. And I think MLB should really be put on notice. Because it may not happen now, but by next year, we'll be singing a different tune.
I'll say this on Detroit. If they're going to do anything this year, they need to get Spencer Torkelson going.
Yeah. And
Yes.
they have to win in the division too. Because in MLB it's still just like football. It's still about divisions, right?
Yep.
Still gotta see how we do in the division. They gotta make some noise in that Central.
Yeah.
Just as much as they gotta make noise in the American League.
Listen, I like their young pitching. They've got some nice pieces in that lineup. Riley Green's been really good. Mark Hanna was a nice addition. If they can get something out of Torkelson and Javi Baez, that'd be lovely for them.
And I want my boy Javi Baez to really, really get going.
And their bullpen at the back end is really pretty good.
It's pretty strong, yes.
You got Axel Foley back there. You had some pieces. Cleveland's a great story every year. And they got pieces. Quan is a good player. Jose Ramirez, I still think is so underappreciated by non-diehard baseball people.
Wow.
And they're doing it with their pitching without Shane Bieber. So give them some credit too. So that should be a fun one. This one's really interesting also in the American League. The Seattle Mariners going to Minnesota to play the Twins. Now, 2 nuggets before this. Entering today, the Seattle Mariners starting pitching has not given up more than 2 earned runs in 22 straight games. The Minnesota Twins entering today have won 12 in a row. Their second longest winning streak in franchise history, the longest 15-game streak back in 1991 with Kirby Puckett on board, and the Twins happened to win the World Series that year. Mark remembers Game 7 between Jack Morris and John Smoltz.
Yeah, I do. I mean, Mike called it right here. This is probably one of the more exciting series of the league. I mean, you got the Minnesota Twins. I mean, 12 straight games. I mean, that's just an accomplishment in and of its own. And even with the 12 straight games, I find it funny that that they're still not first, but they're not first. But Cleveland's been playing so well, but now they're just within arm's reach along with Kansas City. Flip it to the other side, Seattle. I mean, that stat alone, not giving up more than 2 runs. I mean, starting pitching was not giving up 2 runs a game. What a story right there for a team that, when you look at their starting pitching staff, they don't have a Garrett Cole or a Max Scherzer. They have a lot of young guys who came up through or are prospects who have done very well. I mean, look at, I believe Logan Gilbert the other day had a great game, but this is going to be a fun one. Dan.
Sorry. Allergies.
You're good.
Don't you just love the Mariners? I mean, I think with this series in general, because we're still talking Mariners Twins, right? So the Mariners, are an incredible story to start. Now, I admit I was wrong about them in April. I thought they would go off to a bad start. They did not. They really picked it up. And I think that the hitting, the pitching, is really, really, really starting to take off here. I love the Mariners in the series, man. But you know what? Like I said before, that AL Central is playing better than I thought, and the Twins are right in the thick of things too. So, that this is a good matchup for someone that's right there, that they're really close in record too. So I think that there's something to be said about that.
The more I think about this, the Twins need this series more because they need revenge for what happened in the movie Little Big League, where Ken Griffey Jr. robs the home run to win the wild card game for the Mariners. They need revenge. Look, I love what the Twins are doing, Dan. You're right. The AL Central's wide open between the Twins, Guardians, Tigers, and the Royals. I think for Seattle, you send a message. I talk a lot about the Mariners starting pitching, and I love the Mariners starting pitching. But they went through April without getting a whole lot from Julio Rodriguez. And that's not going to hold up if they want to win the American League West. Mainly because at some point, Texas is going to come get their reinforcements back. And if there's a person who need to overcome injuries, it's the Houston Astros. And I'm not counting them out either. But if Seattle can build a nice enough lead in that division, with the starting pitching being what it is, oh man, that top four of Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert, and Miller, woo, they throw gas. All right. Speaking of the AL Central, the Royals are also in action. They'll play the Brewers this week in interleague play. Mark, a Brewer team without Christian Yelich again.
Well, and again, it's the Mike Trout story. Not that you can compare Christian Yelich to Mike Trout by any means, but it's the Mike. Christian Yelich hasn't been healthy since polio got a vaccine. This guy cannot stay a full season on the field, and it's hurting the Brewers. Look at what the Kansas City Royals have done. Let me tell you, I said they were going to be right in the mix early, and I singled this guy out as he is the true kid, and this is Bobby Witt Jr. I don't know another player who was off to a better start offensively and defensively. I mean, I know there are other players that have better numbers than him offensively, but he reminds me of watching a young Cal Ripken Jr. being out there. That not only is he playing for the seriousness, but he's also having fun with it at the same time. And the Kansas City Royals with Salvi Perez hitting their rookie, I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Massey, has been playing a little bit. So, I mean, they're a Band-Aid team, but watch out for this Kansas City team. The question will become is whether they can go far because of the type of age they have on the team, but they're fun and young to watch.
And they've gotten great production out of their starting pitching, including Met legend Seth Lugo.
Oh, 5-1 with
ERA, I think he's under 2 at the moment.
Okay, yeah. Whatever
I'll double
it is.
check it.
Yeah, whatever it is. When the Mets let him go, I was very, very sad because I love when Seth Lugo came out of the pen, he would give you 2-3 innings, and then he got the chance to start. But I don't really think with the Mets team that he started with gave him the shot. That's why the Mets let him go, and the Mets are just eating their words for it.
Oh, no, I love analyzing this Kansas City Royals team. I really do. Not only do they have a solid production hitting wise, but you mentioned the pitching. The pitching has been absolutely stellar. You talked about Seth Lugo with that 160 ERA. He's nearly lights out. This is probably the best I've ever seen Seth Lugo as a starter.
Ever.
And I've criticized him as a starter because it never worked out for whatever reason. I don't know if it was the pitching staff in New York. I don't know what it was in San Diego. But for whatever reason, he was better as a reliever. I don't know what Kansas City's been able to do or what Seth Lugo was able to figure out during the offseason because he's on fire right now. And it is absolutely just stellar job and amazing to watch the growth that we're seeing on him. I also want to give a nice little shout out to other players, Brady Singer, Cole Reagans.
Oh, Reagans has been awesome.
Reagans has 46 strikeouts on the season. His ERA is a little high, a little high, a little up there. But that's okay because he's still a stud. He's still a very, very young stud. Only what, 26 years old? Like,
And they got him for Aldous Chapman last year.
exactly.
Um,
So yeah, I think that the combination of all the pitching staffs, of all the starters, excuse me, is really contributing big to this team as much as the hitting. And by hitting, I mean the big time Salvi, Perez, uh, it coming through big for Kansas City. I love analyzing this Kansas City team. This Kansas City team is young, they're thriving, and they're coming against the Brewers team. Uh, Look, the Brewers are doing pretty well to start, but a little banged up, and when it comes to bigger and badder teams, they just don't match up well. So curious to see what that happens throughout the series.
the Royals kind of remind me of the Mariners a little bit. We love the starting pitching. They have the one young superstar with Bobby Witt. And then the pieces around are just fitting in really nicely. And by the way, we've mentioned it like 3 times already. The AL Central is so wide open. 4 teams are within 3 games of each other.
Yeah.
That's how open the AL Central is going to be this year. And look,
With the exception of Chicago every year. I mean, let's even look at it the last few years. They were never all this close this early.
The White Sox. You continue to ruin this episode, Chicago. Thank you. All right. Dan, quick word on Astros Yankees.
The Yankees should kick their ass.
That was quick.
And if they don't, the Yankees stink. Bottom line. The Astros are off to their worst start since they got good. What was like 2014, 2015? When things started to turn for Houston. I mean, this Astros team, in comparison to what the Yankees have done, it's not even close. Now, look, can the Astros pick it up midseason? Of course they can. But it's not like they have they're not, they haven't lost anyone crazy. They still have pretty much a full squad. And
Yeah, they've had a lot of injuries to pitching, so that's been. And they just sent Jose Abreu to Single A.
Yeah.
That's
but still, like it's not like the Astros hitting is still there. That should at least save them a few wins. You can get over the mediocre pitching.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the hitting, then you're in deep, deep, deep trouble. Kick their ass, Bombers.
All right, Mark, Diamondbacks and Reds.
You got two teams here very quickly. Cincinnati, I've been all about between De La Cruz and Encarnacion Strand. They're all playing. This team is fantastic, electric. The pitching has been up and down, but it's kept them in games. It's not literally make them fight from behind. Yes, the other day, a quick stat on Ellie De La Cruz. We know O'Neill Cruz threw a ball from shortstop to first that was clocked at 104.1 last year. Ellie De La Cruz broke it on a throw from shortstop to first at 106.3.
Wow.
That's just a quick stat, and that's unbelievable. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they're playing fine. I expect them to hang around. It's a tough division for the Diamondbacks to be in when you've got monster teams like the Dodgers and the Padres and the Giants. But don't count them out. They're a good hitting team. They got the pitching, and we're early in the season. The Diamondbacks will. It's going to be tough to win the division, but I expect them to be very close with the Giants for a wild card.
All right. All right. And then we got the Red Sox and the Braves. The Red Sox have overperformed early on. Their starting pitching's been fantastic. And the Braves, listen, I think the Braves are still the second best team in the National League behind the Dodgers. The Dodgers have put a whooping on them last night and beat them the first two games. The question for me on Atlanta, Max Fried hasn't been great yet, and they miss Spencer Strider. They're very reliant on Charlie Morton and Chris Sale, two guys with injury histories. They may need another starter come the deadline if they want to get to the World Series. And I'm not talking to any star. If they want an elite starter. So, but give the Red Sox credit. Give Alex Cora some credit. They've outperformed expectations early. And then the last series we got the Blue Jays going to Philly to play the Phillies. The Phillies, who have the best record in the National League at the moment, and they just put Trey Turner on the injured list because I own him in fantasy. That is just my luck. So, Philadelphia, I am sorry. I will try to do better for you next time.
The Philadelphia Phillies, I mean, we knew they had the talent. There was never a question on that starting the season. We knew they had the talent. We knew they had, the bats. The pitching has been impeccable between Nola and Wheeler, have both been pitching very well. However, losing Trey Turner, I mean, to the hamstring, I mean, when he's batting 343, 9 RBIs, 10 doubles, 10 stolen bases, that's going to be that's a huge statistical gap to try to fill. And, they'll have to make it up from other ways. But I don't think this is going to hurt the Phillies as much as a lot of other analysts do, because the Phillies aren't just winning because of Trey Turner. They're winning on all fronts, whether it's Kyle Schwarber hitting, Bryce Harper hitting, Realmuto as of lately has been on fire. So, and his defense is definitely back. So, you got to hand it to the Phillies. As for the Giants,
Blue Jays.
Sorry. As for the Blue
Phillies
Jays,
are playing the Giants now.
Sorry, I looked at it wrong. As for the Blue Jays, I'm sorry. As for the Blue Jays, they Alek Manoah is back. Gosman is pitching very well.
Gosman was awesome yesterday.
Biggio, I didn't know about that statement. That Mike had mentioned earlier in the podcast. That to me, big respect to that. And that means his dad brought him up well. This team is gonna be there come the end of the year. Again, off to a slow start, even Vladdy Jr., but don't worry. The Toronto will be there. This will be a fun series, but I think Philly takes 2 out of 3 here.
Dan?
To me, first of all, the Blue Jays are playing really, really bad baseball, especially in Washington right now, where they're facing the Nationals. I know they won yesterday, but I mean, for the Blue Jays to give up that game against the Nationals on Friday was rough to watch. And if it wasn't for a 2-run bomb late in the game, the Nationals were right there with them. So the Blue Jays are struggling. The Blue Jays have struggled pretty much the start of the season, and they're 34 games in, so it's tough to watch. If you're the Phillies, take advantage. You're going into a game against a really, really bad series against a struggling Blue Jays team that could barely beat the Nationals. And I know the Nationals are playing a lot better. I know they just hit the 500 mark. They went back to under 500, but they're hovering around 500. So they're playing a lot better than a lot of people thought. But, still, like, this is an advantage of you, and you got to take advantage with or without Trey Turner.
The Blue Jays offense is struggling. I don't know what
It's
the reason is.
atrocious, dude. Like, I've
They
watched it
are
all.
bottom
Yeah.
of the league in a lot of things, which is just with a lineup that has Bo Bichette, George Springer, Vladdy. It shouldn't
He's
be.
been the biggest disappointment, Springer.
And I still, there's a part of me that still thinks they are the sleeping giant of the American League, and if they get it together, they can do a lot of damage.
And that's why I said they'll be there at the end of the year. Yeah.
Their starting pitching has been outside of Chris Bassett. The starting pitching's been pretty good, but Bassett, he is what he is. Philly's the third best team in the National League for me, behind the Dodgers and the Braves. But I got to tell you, it's not a large gap, and the Phillies have established something. The Phillies have established the best top three in a rotation in baseball at the moment. Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and Ranger Suarez.
He's having a phenomenal
start.
start.
Oh, my God. Park Ranger Suarez is doing damage. They're going to score runs. Alec Bum is starting to do some damage, too. He's red hot.
And Schwarber, I believe, hit his 8th the other night. I mean, he's just starting to.
Schwarber's a cheat code because he's home run or bust, but he's awesome.
Yeah, you guys heard of him, but there was a player for the Cincinnati Reds named Adam Dunn.
Oh, yeah, I know Adam Dunn.
Okay. Adam Dunn, Chris Davis, and Kyle Schwarber. The three guys, mind you, the Chris Davis deal still the most worth deal ever. But when they came up and you heard the crack off that bat, those were no doubt players.
They're the three guys who were really two true outcome guys. They were home run or they were strikeout.
Exactly. And really not to, put it like that and make them look bad. I mean, they are major leaguers, but that, you might bet 216 with 90.
You knew what they were doing.
But you hit 50 home runs while doing it. I'm okay with it.
All right. One other note. The Dodgers will activate Walker Buehler from the injured list tomorrow. Woo-hoo! He will start Monday night against the Marlins. So Walker Buehler might throw a no-hitter in his first start back.
He is on an official pitch count at 75.
Now, if he's got the no-hitter going, they've
already said no matter what, his pitch count is 75.
Come on, Dave Roberts. You never let me have fun until you lose in October.
No. Look, this is great. I mean, before the guy got injured, every week we were talking about it. No matter something this kid did, whether it was the fastball or whatnot. Let him come back. We've seen too many players, Strasburg, Harvey, all come back fast after Tommy John surgery, and then their career is over. So I kind of like that they're going to take it cautious with him, and I think Clayton Kershaw is also going to be a very good mentor for him in his final year.
Well, Kershaw is not expected back till around the All-Star break, so
right, but he's there, going to be able to help.
He's there cheering him on. All right.
Yeah.
That'll do. Dan, did you have something you wanted to say?
No. I'm just glad that Buehler's back. If he kicks ass after 2 Tommy Johns, I mean that's something remarkable.
Yeah. All right. That'll do it for this edition of the Batter Up Podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood. Mark, does the Dugout have anything they want to talk about?
Actually, we have a small thing. We're going to be doing a 1-of-1 next week, but it's not going to be with the Shar monkey. It's going to be with Troy.
Okay.
Troy, we have a story that is unbelievable, and I'm not going to share it here. You're going to have to wait till we do the record and it gets posted. But it's unbelievable, and I'm going to give them a shout out now. Filth Bomb Breaks. I promise you, the moment it gets recorded and we have it up with all and everything, we will make sure we send it to you directly so you can see it. But this is a great story. Fanatics Live has been great. We are still very loyal to our co-signer, Top Notch Sports Club, as we do buy a lot from him via Fanatics and Facebook. So please check them out. Best in the business. Otherwise, Mike, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We have Dan here. Sorry, Dan. Where can they find us?
So, well, you're on it, your YouTube page. Like, comment, subscribe. You can also hit bell for notifications. We post videos pretty much all the time now, so we're really excited about that. On our socials at S Insanity Real on Facebook and X, and then of course the website, the Sports Sending Network.com. Please log on to our website and check out blogs by these two gentlemen over here. They do a lot of them, especially Rifkin. Rifkin does one pretty much every day. So please look into that. And then check out our other podcasts on most of these podcast platforms. All the information is on our website. Please follow them.
And before we go, birthday shout out this week to the vice president himself. Tip of the cap, Dan. Happy early birthday.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Dan, as one of the network's lowest heads, I officially give you the day off.
Well, I wasn't gonna be. I have to work on the day side anyway, so I'm not gonna be available.
All right, everybody. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everyone.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Celebrate with some
lots of tacos
and some tequila, margarita, whatever you want to go with.
We'll talk,
if Mark's not too hungover, we'll talk to you next week.